I'm on vacation, and John and Anna did a wonderful job on the show today. But this AOC Nancy Pelosi fight, I can't help myself. I got to jump in. So I'm, of course, seeing incredibly irrational things in the media about it. So that's why I wanted to make a couple of points here. So, number one, who's on Nancy Pelosi's side? Well, Meghan McCain. Of course, a Republican. Yes, the Republicans agree with Nancy Pelosi that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats should surrender to the Republicans. Of course, all the Republicans are on Nancy Pelosi's side. Then people like Pelosi's side. Then people like Lacey Clay. So he's a conservative Democrat, and he's particularly bitter because the Just Democrats are running Cori Bush against him again. Go help Cori Bush, Cori, and then Bush. Go look up her website. Go donate to her. You could do it at justdemocrats.com/July slate. Okay. So he's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're using the race card against Nancy Pelosi, saying she's being disrespectful to young women of color. You know what Lacey Clay said when Cori Bush first ran against him? Hey, why are just Democrats running against the Black Caucus? Oh, so you like to play the race card when it's to your advantage, and then all of a sudden when you want to protect corporate conservative Democrats, you say, oh, don't use the race card, please. By the way, Cori Bush is black, so I don't know what in the world he's talking about. So, and then, of course, the mainstream media. So that's the number one problem. So they say, oh my God, this is like the Tea Party. This is very bad for the Democrats. Infighting is bad. Hold, break that down. Two really, really important points about that. Number one, they say, by definition, infighting is bad, and what the Tea Party did to the Republicans was bad. Really? In the time that the Tea Party was ascendant, the Republicans picked up 1,000 seats across the country. So it's just, like, most of television is a fact-free zone. But it's not just television. Look, a lot of the print reporters are also terrible at this. They just assume that it is bad for the party to challenge incumbents and to challenge the powerful. Well, the Republicans showed that it's just not remotely true. Look at the facts. Look at the facts. It isn't a matter of opinion. The Republicans picked up a tremendous number of seats, and I don't know if they know this, but there's a Republican president right now. So, and you know how many people they had in their primary? 17 people. So primaries are great. They actually help the party. They don't hurt the party. The infighting is not a bad thing. What it is a battle of ideas and strategies so that your party can get stronger and healthier. So now let's go to the second part of the irrationality. They say, well, look, they should unite. Okay, but no one ever asked the most logical question on earth. Okay, great, but they disagree. So who should they unite behind? Or what idea, or what policy, or what strategy should they unite behind? The reason they never asked that question is because they've already assumed that progressives should surrender and to say, hey, look, Pelosi represents the corporate Democrats, so obviously you should do what Pelosi says. No, not remotely obvious. We don't agree with her. Not only that, the voters of the Justice Democrats like AOC and Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, etc., they don't agree. So what is AOC supposed to do? Say, hey, no, you know what? Because they yelled at me at the New York Times and on cable news, I'm going to sell out my voters so I could get along and be a team player and play ball with Nancy Pelosi. I mean, the temerity, the audacity of people, and it's almost everyone in the media and almost everyone in the corporate Democrats, which is obviously 95% of the party, unfortunately, at this point, all agree, well, of course you should surrender. If there's a fight, corporate Democrats should win and progressives should get nothing. No deal to the end of time. Okay, but now the last irrationality, which is the most stunning of all. They say, well, look, the reason you have to unite if you're Democrats is because you got to unite so that you're not fighting each other. You're fighting the Republicans and you're fighting that monster Donald Trump. Oh, wait a minute. I actually kind of love that idea. We should do that. So they say that's why you should unite behind Nancy Pelosi. What? But Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to fight Donald Trump. So if we united behind Pelosi to fight Trump, we wouldn't fight Trump. So by their own logic, they should then get behind progressives who do want to fight Trump. They shouldn't be yelling at AOC to get behind Nancy Pelosi to do nothing. They should be yelling at Nancy Pelosi to get behind AOC, because if it is true that the Whoopi Goldbergs of the world and almost every cable pundit in the country wants to fight Trump, and they think it's a smart strategy and the right policy for the Democrats to fight Trump, which they say all the time, well, then why would you want to unite behind the one person who says, I will never, ever fight Trump? Pelosi says impeachment under no circumstances. I'm not going to fight him on the detention centers. That's a fact. I'm not going to fight him on the budget. That's a fact. I'm not going to fight him on impeachment. That's a fact. Whatever Trump is charged with, Nancy Pelosi says, I will immediately surrender. So if you want to fight Trump, it makes no sense to unite behind the people who have already declared ahead of time that they never will. So if that is your actual objective, which it isn't, their actual objective is, let's just get back to the status quo. Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham and all those people, the status quo was so good. Let's just go back to the rich making all the money and the powerful remaining powerful and not serving the voters and not doing any of that. So understand that you have no logical case at all, and all of the facts are on our side. So if you really want to unite Democrats, you should unite them behind the people willing to fight Trump. And so that is the progressives. And last thing, guys, if the only other reason that they're having a fight is because of policy differences. So when the media does things like, oh, this is AOC versus Pelosi, and it's a battle of personalities. Look, I don't throw the word offensive around a lot, but that's borderline offensive, because it assumes that they are both ego-driven and want power for the sake of power and don't actually care about policy. Now, if you make that assumption about Pelosi, history has shown that unfortunately you'll be correct. I mean, what policy is she even in favor of? I don't think she can name it, right? But AOC and all of the Justice Democrats are incredibly precise about what policies they want. Green New Deal, Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, getting money out of politics. I could go on and on. You know what policies they're in favor of. And they're fighting on behalf of those policies. So we don't agree on policy. So the idea is, no, go with the person not going to fight Trump and not going to fight for progressive policies. Well, but why on God's green earth would you do that unless the only point was power for the sake of power and not to actually serve your voters? No deal. The Justice Democrats are actually going to serve their voters. An overwhelming majority of Democrats agree with them on both fighting Trump and on almost all of those policy issues. Nancy Pelosi says, no, don't fight Trump, and no, don't do any of those progressive policy positions. Well, if you don't fight that, all you're doing is saying, I got mine, I'm corrupt now, I don't care. The fact that the AOC and the Just Democrats are fighting shows you they do care. Look at all the overwhelming opposition in Washington against them. Everyone in unison yelling at them today, and they still won't back down. Why? Because they didn't get elected through corporate money. They got elected through the voters. So they got the voters behind them, and they're not going to surrender. They're going to fight for those positions, and they're going to fight to make sure that we go get Donald Trump. That's what the voters want, and that's what they're going to do. And if the mainstream media doesn't like it and the corporate Democrats don't like it, sad day for you. It's about time the fight started, and the fight is going to be won by the people who actually care to fight. So it's only a matter of time before Nancy Pelosi and her corporate Democrats are driven from power, which will be the best thing we ever did.